Mr. Nell?
May it please the Commission?
Chair, I'm sorry to, I need to place on record that Ms. Ranto for the SAPS have asked to be excused for today.
To be excused.
Yes.
Thank you.
May it please the Commission? We were asked by the evidence leaders to prepare a statement for Mr. Leask, which we did, and we were granted leave to lead his evidence. Mr. Andrew Gordon Leask is available, and he's ready to take the oath.
Thank you. Mr. Leask, please place your full name for the record.
Lady Chair, it's Andrew Gordon Leask.
Are you going to take an oath or affirmation?
I'll take the oath.
Yes. Do you swear that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you.
Mr. Leask, just before we introduce you to the Commissioners, just to give perspective to your evidence, I want to refer you to a portion in the record. We've made a copy available to the Commissioners and all the other parties. I want to refer you to a portion of the evidence of Masuka that was led on the 17th of February 2026, and it's from line 16. Would you just read that into the record? It's page 47 of the evidence.
You know at the time, and I'm sure you will hear from him, but at the time when you had the amnesty applications for the Similani case, you already had almost a complete docket by Captain Andrew Leask, who had done quite an amazing job, I have to say, before the Truth Commission even began its work.
Are you that Captain Leask?
Yes.
Good.
Incorrectly spelled.
He's very used to it, of the incorrect spelling of his name. The worst is leaks. Mr. Leask, can you just confirm your statement that we drafted? The statement is at page 1191, and your signature appears at page 1197 of your affidavit. Do you confirm that's the affidavit that you made?
I do.
You confirm the contents thereof?
I do.
Now, Mr. Leask, what's your current employment?
I'm currently employed at the Private Prosecutions Unit under the umbrella of AfriForum, where I am employed as I head up the Investigative Division.
Mr. Leask, how long have you been in law enforcement?
For 44 years. I started my career in 1982 in the South African Police at Western Area.
You were then a uniformed policeman.
I was a uniformed policeman for approximately a year and a half, and then was transferred to the detectives.
And you were at detectives at what station?
At the Western Area, that time the CID, the Criminal Investigation Department.
And from there, Mr. Leask?
I was applied for and transferred to the Murder and Robbery Unit. That was 1986, and I remained there for, in the murder and robbery component for most of my career within SAPS.
Then later, you also were then transferred or assigned to the Priority Crimes Investigation Unit. We've got lots of those. That was the PCRU within the police.
That is correct, Lady Chair. At the time, the murder and robbery units were disbanded or closed down, and there was a change in certain structures, and the murder and robbery units were taken up into what was that time termed the SVC, the Serious Violent Crimes component, which was a division within the detection. And I was posted within the office of the head of the Priority Crimes Investigation Unit at the provincial head office in Johannesburg for the province Gauteng.
And that was Director Toms at the time.
That is correct.
Mr. Leask, that's where you became the investigating officer in two matters that's relevant for today. One is the Nokutula Similani matter, and the other one that we will describe later, but the Strongman matter.
That is correct.
Can you perhaps just indicate to the Commission how you got involved as the investigating officer in the Nokutula Similani matter?
Yes, Lady Chair, I remember clearly the what had happened is I was directed to report to the Attorney General at the time of the Witwatersrand, whereat I was provided with a newspaper article that had been published in the Sowetan. I recall the journalist, I think, was a Miss Chetty, and it held reference to the disappearance of a lady, Nokutula Similani, and that someone had come forward and made a disclosure of their knowledge about their involvement, and up until their involvement could assist the story in confirming that she had disappeared and the reasons for that. So based on that, at the time it was, if I recall, and this is a long time ago, but I think the article referred to a Mr. X, and if I recall, it was a Mr. Vai, who I interviewed, and from there, I've tried to go back on the information available to me. I don't think it was more than 2 weeks, and we pretty much wrapped up the involvement of the security police at the time, the disclosure that Nokutula had been lured to South Africa. She was kidnapped at the Carlton Centre, and that she was then taken to the police accommodation at the Norwood Police Station, where she was held captive on the roof of the building for a short period. And when I refer to a short period, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but it was the short period of, I think, just under 2 weeks or so, and then she was taken to a farm in Northam, a family member's farm, who was a relative of, I just can't remember if it was Kutsia and Pretorius, were identified as the two main suspects, who at that time were attached to the security police in Soweto.
Yes, if Mr. Nell can help you, or you can refresh your memory, when you were roped in, what was the year, the date?
Commissioner Gomo, it was 1996, if I remember, and I'm making that on the, because we registered a case docket at the time, which was registered under the case administration system for the police, the CAS number, which was 1469 of 1996.
So the Attorney General at the time was a well-known person. Who was he?
Klaus von
Liris und
Wilkau.
So Mr. von Liris then wanted you to investigate the matter. You opened the case docket.
That is correct.
Good. We will get back to all those facts, but let us just, we're building on your career, how you were then at BCIU, you became the investigating officer in this particular matter. Then later you were also attached to the De Oliveira unit.
Yes, what had happened is my investigations, or my component that I headed up at the province, we had the Nokutula matter, and amongst other matters had developed, and it was thought that it would be best that we were relocated to form part of at the time, the Yanda Oliveira investigative unit, which I think it was the unit into third force activities.
You then, when you joined the Oliveira unit, you joined the unit with all your cases and your team,
That is correct.
and you continued working on your cases with your team.
That is correct.
When was this, Mr. Nell?
When did you join the Oliveira unit?
At about, I think it's 1996, 96, when we were relocated.
We're still building on your career. We'll get to all the detail a bit later. Then you later joined an organization, IDOC.
That is correct.
What was IDOC?
The Investigative Directorate for Organised Crime.
You were then, although a policeman, to form part of IDOC, and that happened in 1998, you were seconded to the Department of Justice, am I correct?
That is correct.
Then, from IDOC, you were then also part of the establishment and the first intakes of the DSO,
That is correct.
and that was in
2000.
2000. That's the Director of Special Operations, also known as the Scorpions.
That is correct.
Now, in the Scorpions, you were appointed as a Chief Investigating Officer.
Yes, that happened after the amendment to the NPA Act and the structuring of the. There was no structuring there was no structure for a detective leg within the National Prosecuting Authority, more so in the DSO. The amendments were made, and in 2001, the structure had been set up, and I was appointed as a Chief Investigating Officer in the DSO.
And you served at the head office component of the DSO as a Chief Investigating Officer.
That is correct.
We'll get to it in a bit more detail later, but that also then brought you to be part of the SNPU that was headed by Advocate Chris McAdam.
That is correct.
Now, just to complete your whole career then, with the disbandment of the Scorpions or the DSO, you joined a different unit within the MPA. Is that correct?
Yes, I was transferred into the office of Mr. Willie Hofmeyer, who headed up the asset forfeiture division of the NPA.
And from there, you eventually in 2017 resigned and joined the private prosecution unit.
That is correct.
So, Mr. Leask and Commissioners, we're now at paragraph 5. You haven't been in the employment of the government since 2017.
Yes,
And you haven't been employed by the South African Police Service since 1998, when you joined IDOC.
yes, that's correct.
Now, have you had access to any case dockets to prepare yourself for your evidence?
No, absolutely. I've got no access to any of the case dockets.
But we had access to certain documentation, and we base our evidence on that. Can you just run through what the access you had?
Yes, during a consultation with the evidence leaders, two documents were submitted or presented to me for comment. I have those two documents. The one is in relation to a correspondence between it was directed to the investigating director, who at the time was Advocate Jeff Ledwaba, The investigating director was the operational head of the Scorpions, and it was addressed to him by Advocate McAdam.
May I just inform the commissioners that it's page 287 of the Kalata papers. And we will deal with that. And then also a second memorandum, that's page 294. That was just indicate from whom to whom that memorandum was?
That was directed from the investigating director, the Advocate Ledwaba, to myself.
Good. We're still busy with the information you had available before you made your affidavit. You also then, after you submitted your affidavit, came across two documents that we will testify about. Those are reports drafted as in relation to the Nokutula Similani matter. Is that correct?
That is correct. They go
Commissioners,
back.
it's page 494 to pages 503. Both.
Of the Kalata papers?
Yes. And if we identify those two reports, it's reports written by yourself and Director Toms to the head office of the South African Police Service. Am I right?
Yes, and also at the time Mr. Kachalia at the Secretariat for Safety and Security.
We will deal with that. We're just identifying that. And then the other information you had available, that was your memory.
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Now, Mr. Lees, Commissioners, we're now at paragraph 8.
Can I ask a question? Did you read the Kalata papers? Just curious.
I have, at the time that I was approached, I started looking at everything I could find that would assist me to deal with what was posed in the beginning regarding, obstructing, stopping, order to not do things. So I have, to a certain extent, read as much as I can, but it's been a massive task.
We're at paragraph 8, Commissioners. Mr. Lees, in the DSO, you've already indicated that you were the investigative component, you were one of the first chief investigating officers. Now, did you have any prosecutorial powers in the DSO?
No, I am not a prosecutor at all. I'm a career policeman. I'm a career detective, and that's my profession. I had nothing to do with prosecutorial decisions. I form part of the other component of the DSO.
And in the DSO, in the structure of the DSO, as a chief investigating officer, who did you report to?
In my capacity, I was the most senior investigator in head office, and I reported directly to the ID, the investigating director.
Which was?
Advocate Ledwaba.
Good. Now, you then was a member of the SNPU, Special National Projects Unit, headed by Advocate McAdam. You were assigned to him.
That is correct.
And in that particular capacity, you were involved with the investigation of TRC matters.
Yes, part of our duties.
Now, the fact that you were assigned to SNPU, that was terminated at a stage.
In 1980,
No.
in 2003.
Good. So you worked with Advocate McAdam until 2003, and then it was stopped. How was this stopped?
Well, in relation to the TRC matters, the mandate, I'd received an instruction that Advocate McAdam was transferred to the PCLU, the Priority Crimes Litigation Unit, which was to, as their main focus, deal with TRC matters amongst others. The PCLU was not part of the DSO. I was then took over as the head of the Special National Projects Unit, and the TRC matters, I was directed to do a proper handover of the office as it was, in relation to which matters had to be transferred to wherever that we were directed, more specifically that the TRC matters were to be handed over, and that was what occurred in 2003.
And in that regard, there is the memorandum at page 294 of the Kalata Papers from Mr. Ledwaba to you on the 15th of July 2003.
Yes, Lady Chair, that sets out the instruction.
Just read, I'm sure it's part of the record and people testified about it, but let's just read the first paragraph and then the first two lines, just to indicate what the instruction of Mr. Ledwaba was. So let's start there with due to the recent creation.
Due to the recent creation of the PCLU, it has become necessary to redefine the mandate and operations of the SNPU as follows. Number one, the TRC cases. I have decided that SAPS must take over the investigations of all such cases currently handled by you.
And just one more line, please.
Your file should be closed off and all the material given to the PCLU.
And that was an instruction by your direct head, and you followed the instruction.
Yes.
And you carried on with special national projects within the DSO in that capacity.
That is correct.
Now, although you handed over all the cases, were you still involved in some way with tasks to complete the TRC investigations?
Yes, I had a relatively well-skilled investigative capacity. The PCLU had no investigative capacity in their structure. Although I could only perform investigative functions within the DSO, as all members of the DSO, where you were issued with a certificate from the investigating director indicating that he authorized an investigation or a pre-investigation, or that the national director had directed something to be investigated. Those were the scope of how the case intake was managed and authorized. But working in an environment where the PCLU was we were across from each other in the passageway, I had several investigators who had been involved in other TRC matters at the De Oliveira unit, who also later took up positions and were appointed in the DSO. So wherever we had an opportunity that an investigator was needed to do something on an ad hoc basis, there was no problem. I would either do something myself, or I would direct someone to assist the PCLU to take statements, find witnesses, victims, that kind of stuff, and that feedback would be given directly back to the prosecutors dealing with the matters at the PCLU.
Are you saying it was not coordinated, or there was no teamwork, or it was not organized?
Commissioner Gomo, at that stage, it was pretty much, the Scorpions was in its infant years with legislation, the organization itself, the direction that was given. I would say it was To a certain extent, it left the PCLU, I think, in a quandary regarding the TRC matters. But I didn't make policy. I wasn't in a position to make policy or decide policy. My understanding is that the Hawks, or not at that time the Hawks themselves, but SAPs were with a massive capacity would have detectives deployed to assist the PCLU. But it did not happen, I think, as quick as one would have. And I was, as a cordial relationship that we had within the NPA, if we were asked, we helped.
Mr. Lees, perhaps we should explain it a bit in more detail. The PCLU, when the PCLU was created, it was created outside the DSO.
That is correct.
And if you assisted just as a favor to people you knew well, and you weren't obliged to
yes,
assist.
And there was no way that we could do any, for lack of a better word, intrusive investigation, because it wasn't authorized no longer. I was directed that the DSO's authority to conduct any investigative work no longer was authorized. It had ceased on the issuing of this directive to me.
Let it go back one step. I forgot that. So whilst at the SNPU, were you assigned a case docket and appointed as an investigating officer, or what was the methodology used at the SNPU?
At that time, in more specific on the TRC matters, the prosecutors were going through massive amounts of cases that had come in relation to TRC matters. So they would be working on the files, and at that stage were trying to identify certain issues that needed investigation, and then would either in writing or in discussions or in meetings set out a request of stuff that had to be done. That would then be done and submitted back to the prosecutor.
So you received taskings from prosecutors?
That's right.
And that will then put into perspective the memorandum of 5 May 2003 at page 287 of the Kalata Papers, which is a typical tasking by Advocate McAdam in relation to the Ahmed Timel matter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So in that tasking, if we just go to paragraph 4, that's at page 288, there were various taskings. Number 1 is George Bezos must be interviewed to establish whether he has the post-mortem report and any other information. Did you do that?
No.
But what you in fact did is, number 2, Ivor Powell must be interviewed to get the information that was discussed at paragraph 3, where there was that he was informed that Sergeant Rodriguez had told his daughter what had really happened. So did you interview Ivor Powell?
I did.
So that tasking you did. And the information you received from Ivor Powell, was it positive or not?
No, he did not confirm what we were told he would confirm.
Good. So that was a tasking by Advocate McAdam to the investigators.
May I just indicate that when I say that the other taskings I did not do, I just want to bring that in perspective. When these taskings were issued, I had no idea that in a week's time or a month's time or 6 months' time, we would not be involved with the TRC. So these were not the only taskings. So if I had foresight or that within 2 weeks we would no longer be doing that, and this was important, then obviously we would have deployed the resources to do that. But we were taking on these, and I was of the view that in these kind of matters, if you get information that someone is going to confess or they're heartbroken and feel that they must expose things that have bothered them in relation to these kind of offences, you jump at that, you get to the person because they speak from the heart. It develops a case quickly, and you get, in most instances, in between the whole story, a golden thread of honesty about what happened, and that makes an investigation run at a great speed. So therefore, Ivor Powell's, the reference to the Ivor Powell interview was for me important. The other stuff more than likely would have been dealt with, but I did not know whether, that we would have been tasked not to exist with an involvement on the TRC matters.
Commissioners, we have now dealt with paragraph 18 and 14 as far as that is concerned. Mr. Lees, you, in preparation for your evidence today and in drafting your statement, you noted the versions of Advocate Piccoli and Advocate Ackerman.
Yes.
Is there any way that you disagree with the evidence?
I have absolutely no reason to doubt that what they say is not true.
Let us deal with that, Commissioner, that paragraph 16 of the affidavit. You had the interaction with Advocate Ackerman in the passage.
Yes, that's correct. I know now what the date, but I couldn't recall the date, but if I remember, it was in November of 2004. I was just around the corner from Advocate Ackerman and McAdam, and on the day I recall Advocate Ackerman, he was absolutely livid. He'd come from the NDPP's office. At the time, it was the acting NDPP, Advocate Ramayiti. And he just in passing said to me that he was of the view that it had reached a breaking point in terms of interference in his office and his prosecutorial duties.
And we now know from the evidence of Mr. Ramayiti and other papers that that's when Mr. Ramayiti called him in to say that he shouldn't proceed with the matter that he intended to.
Yes.
Now, let us just deal with the Nokutula Similani matter in a bit more detail. Commissioner, that's paragraph 11 of the statement.
Just a moment. Although Mr. Ackerman would, when he comes, say that himself, but did he expatiate and reveal, unburden what's troubling him? What specifically, by whom?
I wasn't inquisitorial at all, but my understanding, the clear message that I got, that he was told to stop, and I knew that there was imminent arrests to be done on the attempted murder of Dr. Frank Chikani, and I knew that he was told to stop that. It wasn't going to happen, and he also made mention to, and I do recall, I think in one, and I've read several affidavits, and I'm not sure how many he made, but I'm sure that I read it also in one of his affidavits where he said that the attorney Wagner had interfered. And that was my understanding. I never took it further or thought it was my place to ask, but I'm presenting his view on, and we knew each other well, and I knew that he was livid. He was in a position that he couldn't do his work.
Yes, thank you.
Now we're dealing with the Nokutula Similani matter in a bit more detail. To give perspective to your involvement was pre-TRC.
Absolutely. I was a murder and robbery detective. I was stationed at Province, and I was doing detective work within the province.
Before the TRC even commenced, you identified suspects.
That is correct.
The two suspects you identified, they were?
Colonel Kutsia and Pretorius.
Now, what happened to your docket? The Nkutula Similani docket?
Lady Chair, at this stage, well, we put together a docket, and I can say it was in a relatively short span of time. We met and interviewed many witnesses, family members, and got a perspective of what the alleged offences were, put a docket together, and that docket went with me to the D'Oliveira unit.
Yeah.
There we continued with investigations. That investigation expanded into, premised on information that detectives get in the normal scope of their work, is an indication. People will say, look at that because it holds reference to that, and it was conveyed to me that this Bambu, Adriano Bambu, also known as Strongman, that his killing held a direct relationship to the Nokutula Similani matter. So that also formed part of the investigation. That matter also was, as far as I'm concerned, there's always outstanding investigation that happens, but at that stage, docket was completed. And on a day, I cannot recall the date. There might be an entry or something in the case docket. I've not seen my case dockets that would indicate. I received a message that those two dockets were to be handed to a colleague that worked, who I also knew very well. He was from the East Rand Murder and Robbery, also assigned to the Third Force investigations at the D'Oliveira unit, and that he was to collate the dockets. And the reason for that was that he had got a message from Advocate Turi Pretorius, who told him to collate the dockets because there was an imminent process underway to address the involvement of General Krappies Engelbrecht.
Two things before you proceed. That person that collated the docket was?
Captain Mike Holmes.
Captain Mike Holmes. Now, when you received this message and when you handed over your dockets to Captain Holmes, as an investigator that investigated lots of cases, what was the status of that particular case, docket, the Nokutula Similani matter that you handed over?
Well, I would say I pretty much felt, I think, like Advocate Ackerman. The case came, well, there was an expectation, and I understand that when you deal with organized crime cases, you always look at finding a crack in the system and then running it up as quick as you can to get to the top. So with that in mind, I was obviously disappointed because I was confident that both those matters were ready for arrests and and consideration of prosecution to start at that time. That was
good.
My position at that time.
Then, Mr. Leesk, then and even now, after you've heard everything that there is to be heard about TRC investigations, can you see any relevance of those two case dockets with the possible arrest of General Krapi Singh?
Absolutely nothing.
Then you said so, and I think that it will become also important later. After you handed over your case dockets to Captain Holmes, did you ever see them again?
No.
But what's even more important, did any person ever consulted with you about the investigative work and the contents of those case dockets after you handed them over?
No. Well, let me just place something in context. I do recall at a stage a captain of the police approached me. It was a very limited inquiry he was making with relation to, at the time of my investigations in the Nokatula matter, I was placed at head office. I was a junior officer, and there were the suspects were seniors, security policemen that were in the building, and there was just a atmosphere of, to an extent, I'd say intimidation, and supported by that, in my investigations, I'd established that there was an effort to ensure that the people involved in the matter as possible witnesses or co-perpetrators in that were being approached to inquire if they had been approached, were they making statements, who's talking, and that kind of thing. And that developed to a stage where I had heard that there was going to be a meeting between some of the parties, with Coetzee and Pretorius. I'm not sure exactly, I can't recall which one arranged it, but that they had made a determined effort to arrange a meeting. I arranged for that meeting. I caused it to be recorded. And getting back to what has been posed now, and I'm testifying about the captain approaching me, is that he wanted to know what had happened to the recordings. Obviously, I assisted him in that regard. But I've never been consulted. After the docket was taken away, nothing after that.
We'll get to, but let's deal with it now. There is some information that in 2016, the NPA decided to prosecute on the Nkutula matter.
Yes, I did not know that.
And you weren't consulted?
Not at all.
And you had the docket from the start, you did all the investigative work, went to Swaziland and visited the scenes, but you were never consulted?
Yes, that's correct. I was
Good.
never consulted.
Now, let us just deal with
Maybe you're going to come back to the scene, but what scene are we talking about? In Swaziland now.
Commissioner, once again, I'm at a stage, I'd forgotten that I'd been to Swaziland, but we were investigating a matter in which Nokatula Similani had been kidnapped. We could follow the spoor, for lack of a better word, up until the stage where
The
all
trail. The trail.
the trail.
Yes.
Thank you. Up until the point where the evidence regarding her, where she was after they had last seen them, was exhausted. And that had indicated that she was last seen in the car of Coetzee, where she was still cuffed, badly injured. And that's pretty much where it stopped.
perhaps, sorry, where in that car? I think that's important.
It was in the boot of the vehicle. So important for the investigation was to establish, is she missing? And there was rumors already that had come that no, she'd gone back to Swaziland, that she was with the ANC, you know, that kind of information. So the obvious thing for me was that with missing people, it's always important to listen to family. They know things that other people don't know, and if someone goes missing and gets a chance to return from where they come, they will in some way make contact with family. They would make contact with the structure she was working in, the people she was involved with, and there was a strong relationship with her as a person and let's say the community in which she lived in and that in Swaziland. So that's why I went there, interviewed a lot of people, went to the ANC structures that were there. I had an excellent communication with the family. They assisted me greatly. Pretty much, you know, at a time where it wasn't easy, I think, for people to trust detectives from the police at the time. But I had an excellent relationship. I was doing nothing but my job. And so that was what covered the investigation in Swaziland. I could find absolutely no support that Nokuthula Similani had returned to Swaziland, and nobody has seen her since.
Mr. Lees, perhaps a good opportunity to refer to those two
Before
reports
that,
of yours.
Mr. Nell, Ms. Gabriel has a question to put to the witness.
Mr. Lees, just remind me, were you the IO, the investigating officer for the Nokuthula Similani matter?
That is correct.
Okay. And you remained in that capacity throughout?
Up until the time when the docket was removed.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yet you were never consulted thereafter as the IO?
No, Commissioner Gabriel.
Okay.
It's perhaps a good opportunity to refer to the reports. We have to go somewhere first before we do that. Now, dealing with TRC and amnesty hearings, members applied for amnesty in the Nokuthula Similani matter.
Yes.
Now, we discussed that at paragraph 12, and commissioners, I have to alert the Commission to an error we made, and I think I should take the blame for the error, but it's an error which we want to correct. In paragraph 12, where we indicate in the last sentence, but let me read it. I had identified the suspects in the Similani matter, Timo Kutsi and Anton Pretorius, received amnesty for the kidnapping and assault charges. But we're wrong.
Yeah, in relation, absolutely. In relation to Kutsi and Pretorius, it was for kidnapping, not the assault charges.
Good. And also not for murder.
No.
But we had to go there first. Now we go back to the reports. You at a stage, because of information you received, decided that you're investigating a murder.
Absolutely.
And what was that information?
I will refer to my...
It's 497, page 497 of the Galata Papers. At paragraph 714.
Lady Chair, as I previously indicated, with the developments of what was nothing other than an attempt to interfere, I had discussed it with the head at that time, which was Director Toms, and we put together this report with the purpose of partly to ensure that we were recommending suspension of Kutsia and Pretorius. And part of that report, where I set out who had spoken to me, what they said, I indicate in paragraph 7, Mr. Lengeni had made an affidavit, but then said that his affidavit was not completely truthful because he'd made it under duress, but that he was now telling the truth. And in that report, he said that why he did that is he was presently serving under Superintendent Pretorius, who also brought him for the interview on the day of him giving his statement. So on the day that I had summoned the person for me to take their affidavit, the main suspect in the matter brought him. So, I mean, that in itself indicates the level of duress that the witness would have been under when he comes to make the statement. He had been told that it was up to him and Norman Scotch to save their skins. Norman Scotch, also a security policeman, and indicated to the witness that Director Toms, who was my boss and the provincial head, would reveal all that had been said to them after taking his statement. So the witness was told that my boss, who I report to, would tell them, Pretorius, what I was doing or what they had told. And then, for me, as from a detective point of view, it was a slam dunk. I just knew that when they told the witness, Captain Lees could not be able to prove any charges as he had no proof of a body. Why anyone who's innocent in a matter of a missing person would concern themselves by saying that they shouldn't worry with what I'm doing because I had no proof of a body. It's not a denial I knew that we were looking for a body.
So that was it. That convinced you that you're dealing with a murder matter?
Absolutely.
And that's how you treated the matter. There's one other aspect that we're not very sure about, but let us just inform the commissioners. In the evidence led this far, there was evidence led, I think, by Minister Similani on a response to a question by Mr. Varney that you've taken warning statements of Coetzee and Pretorius. Can you recall that?
Commissioners, I have taken, I cannot acknowledge or deny it. It's a normal course of an investigation that when you get to the point of the finality of an investigation that you would take a warning statement. But I've taken many warning statements and confessions and pointings out in my career that if I had access to the case docket, it would speak for itself.
Yeah. But there's still your evidence that the docket was ready for trial.
Absolutely. That's my view.
Now, we're not reading this whole two reports into the record, but you have read them.
Yes.
And do you still confirm the correctness of the two reports that one can find at 494 to 503 of the Galata papers?
That is correct.
Good. Now, let us just deal with the Strongman bamboo investigation. That's very closely linked to the Nkotula Similani matter.
During the course of the Nkotula investigation, I had an opportunity where my witnesses in that matter had indicated to me that it was important that I speak to a person, and I only remember the surname, Willifant. I cannot commit to being correct about the relationship, but my understanding was that they were distant cousins or very, very close. There was a close relationship, and that he knew more about the fact that Bambo had been killed, and that there was the motive behind that was to silence him. Coupled with that, Captain Mike Holmes, who was on the with us at the task team, he had been investigating or involved in investigations in the East Rand relating to armed robberies. He was also a murder and robbery detective. And that during the course of his investigations, this Adrian Bambo had been identified. Apparently he'd been arrested at a stage. He escaped. And Olifant told me that at a stage my two main suspects, Kutsia and Pretorius, had directed him to speak to Strongman. I see they refer in certain papers, it's referred to that he was an informer. Now, I have difficulty with my understanding of their understanding of an informer. He was an askari. He worked for the security police. He had gotten into financial difficulties at the time when the South African police force became the South African Police Service, and the amalgamation of the other policing structures in Southern Africa or South Africa were brought into the service. And as happens, people are given an opportunity to take a package and leave. And this is just what was conveyed to me, that he'd taken a package, got into financial difficulties, and the man started involving himself in crime because of his financial position. Olifant had indicated that he was warned to speak to him because there was a fear from the security police that if murder and robbery had arrested him in the matters, that there was a chance that he would expose certain secrets or confidential activities, and that was a risk for them. So in the course of the investigation, I managed to establish that members of Vlakplaas assisted a colleague of Captain Mike Holmes. I think at the time it was a Lieutenant Kukumur. He was a Lieutenant Kukumur at the murder and robbery unit, who was, they assisted him to go and set up a DLB, dead letterbox, or an arms cache in the area of Nelspruit.
Is it a dead letterbox?
Yes.
A dead letterbox.
That is correct, Commissioner. So the murder and robbery detective Kukumur, accompanied by a Vlakplaas operative, David Brits, took certain explosives and weapons, went to Nelspruit, set up the DLB, drove back and on the next day, Strongman, who had been rearrested, was in detention, booked him out, took him out on pointings out, that he was going to do pointings out on a arms cache, took him to the same arms cache that was set up, and there the Mr. Kukumur reported that he was attacked by the suspect. If I remember correctly, a hand grenade went off, he shot the man, and they killed him.
Now, did you have cause to understand that Strongman was relevant to the Nokutula Similani matter?
Yes, in as far as all the witnesses that I had spoken to and other persons who approached me who were not necessarily witnesses but who confided in me and the investigations I was involved in, had indicated to me that Adrian Bambu was not referred to as strongman for no reason at all. He was a powerful figure. He was a man of means, and they were all of the view that part of the secrets, or let me say the risk, was that he would have been a person in a position to bring us closer to actually what happened to Nokutula once she was handed back to Kutsia.
Now, the 3 people received amnesty for the death of strongman Adriano Bambu. Is that correct?
Yes.
The 3.
It was Eugene de Kock, Lionel Snyman, and then my witness, Davel Brits.
You say your witness, Davel Brits. Davel Brits is the one person that decided to come clean and to give you a full explanation of what happened.
He did?
He's not with us anymore.
Mr. Nell, if I may interpose, we have come to that part where we've got to adjourn for tea. At an appropriate time, would you please indicate so that we can take it?
I think it's appropriate now. We're almost done, but it's appropriate now. It will also assist me in going through my notes.
Yes. I think we'll adjourn now and reconvene at 11:20.
As the Commission pleases.
Thank you, Mr. Nel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lees, let us continue. You testified about the individuals that received amnesty for the Adriana bamboo killing. You indicated it was de Kok, Brits, and Snyman.
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Lees, out of your own accord, have you ever stopped any TRC investigation out of your own accord?
No, I have not.
I just want to make it clear, and we've emphasized it over and over, but I think it's important. Since the time you handed over your case docket for Adriana Bamboo and Nokutula Similani to Captain Holmes, you've never seen them again.
That's right.
Mr. Lees, let's deal with paragraph 17 in your affidavit about the delineation of the investigations of the TRC matters.
Before the amalgamation or the establishment of the Special National Projects Unit at the DSO, where the TRC matters were had been all brought together at the NPA offices. Before that, there were two investigative groupings. The Dr. Yando Oliveira Third Force Investigations, which focused on the crimes of the government at the times, or the apartheid government's services, the security police, the defense involvement in alleged atrocities. And on the other hand, there was a unit that sat in a different building at Church Square in Pretoria at the DPP's office. I understood, or I knew that Advocate Paul Fick headed up that investigative component. It was staffed with investigators that worked separately to us, and their focus was on looking at alleged crimes by the freedom fighter liberation groups.
And you focused on investigation of the security forces.
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Lees, I am going to refer you to the evidence of Minister Similani that was given to this commission. Commissioners, I made the transcript of the record available just for ease of reference, so we don't have to page through it.
Yes, before you come to it, Mr. Lees, do you have any information about the whereabouts of Willifan?
No, Commissioner Gomo, I last engaged with him in the 90s.
Okay.
I referred to the evidence of Minister Similani on the 12th of February, and I'll start at page 316. Mr. Lees, will you just read paragraph 316 from line 2 to line 11.
And subsequently, I think that is what led to the opening of the case and the beginning of the appointment of Mr. Leesk as the department or SAPS to investigate the case of Nokutula. It started very well. There was huge progress, I must say, and very positive progress. Mr. Leesk was able to go firstly to Swaziland, round up almost everybody from my aunt's uncle and everybody else to check and who was she working with and all that. All the investigation and the docket obviously was then opened. The first team actually to go to the farm and all that. And we are getting feedback in relation to what is the findings bit by bit as he was doing investigation.
Perhaps just the next paragraph as well, for completeness sake.
And subsequently, we do not know how he then stopped the investigation, and we were told the investigation has been transferred. I think there was a De Oliveira and Tom's in the investigation group or team that took over from Mr. It indicates indistinct. That was the end of us.
So you confirm that as far as your investigation is concerned, that she refers to what you did in consulting with the family.
Yes.
And you've now explained to the Commission what happened to the case docket at the De Oliveira unit.
That is correct.
Then we dealt with it, but I think we should just do it again. At line 21, that's where there's reference to a warning statement in a question from Mr. Varney. And it follows on the next page.
What are you on, Mr. Nell?
I'm on page 316
Okay.
at line 21. Can we just read that into the record, perhaps, from line 21? Starting with De Oliveira unit.
The De Oliveira unit was established under Mr. De Oliveira to investigate these crimes. Am I also right in saying that Mr. Andrew Leask went as far as taking a warning statement against Mr. Kutsia for the murder of Nokutula?
And then there was a response. Can you just...
Commissioners, you are correct. I actually even think after the warning statements they were suspended from the police and the investigation continued. I may not recall the dates per se, but as he started the investigation, the suspensions also kicked in and warning statements were taken.
Good. We've dealt with the warning statements. It's still your evidence that the investigation was ready for prosecution as far as you were concerned, but you cannot recall if you, in fact, took warning statements of.
That is correct.
But you also testified that they were suspended from the police service.
Yes.
Good. Let us then, page, we won't do everything, but there's quite a few references about you in the evidence which we've gone through. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you agree with most of those, and that's what you did?
Yes.
Perhaps
that
we
is
should just deal with one other then at page 318. From line 3, if you just read that one paragraph into the record as well.
Just the one line.
No, just that paragraph, starting with Mr. Similani. I may say so, Chair.
I may say so, Chair, that is why in my previous statement I said then that was the end of us. Because there was this investigation and we were cooperating very well. We made sure that Mr. Leask our families are indistinct. In Swaziland, my aunts and my uncles, everybody that he deemed fit to speak and talk to as part of his investigation. And we were getting feedback, and after that, when the docket was transferred, we never heard any progress, and there was no investigation that concluded. I mean that continued to even conclude on the case or possible what should be done about the case.
You in fact agree with it. That's also when you last had any feedback and involvement with the case docket when it was handed over.
Yes.
So you confirm that
This is
but
accurate.
the evidence as far as you're concerned and that we've seen that she's actually correct. And that's the role you played in the case that you investigated.
Yes.
May it please the Commissioners, I have nothing further for Mr. Leask.
Thank you, Mr. Nell. Mr. Vani, any clarificatory questions?
Yes, Chairperson, we do have some questions for clarity arising out of Mr. Leask's evidence in chief. Mr. Leaks, before I put some questions for clarification to you, just on behalf of the families, we'd like to thank you for your professional...
If you can shift the mics maybe a bit.
Commissioner, is this a bit better?
It's a bit better. I know you're used to talking to yourself.
I do want a bigger audience, so it is important that that everybody can hear. I'll start again. Mr. Lees, before I commence with a few questions, on behalf of the families, I've been instructed to thank you for your professional investigations into the Similani matter and others. The families take the view that you conducted yourself without fear or favour in those investigations.
Thank you.
I'm looking at your paragraph 8 of your statement, and you make reference to the fact that after McAdams transferred to the PCLU, you served as head of the Special National Projects Unit until the DSO's disbandment. You mentioned that that unit focused on the TRC cases. Was it exclusively the TRC cases, or were there other cases as well?
There were initially the TRC matters was a massive focus, but we were tasked with other matters which were regarded as sort of national projects, matters that were sort of crossed the borders between the provinces that the provincial officers of the DSO were dealing with, and so they were encompassed under the Special National Projects Unit. I can mention that after 2003, we focused on what later became massive investigations that took up most of our lives with regards to our involvement in the investigation into the Commissioner Jackie Selebe and all those related matters with Aglioti and those matters, which took up the time until we were disbanded.
Thank you. Now, in your evidence in chief, you made reference to the fact that perhaps on an ad hoc basis you were providing what you referred to also in paragraph 8 as a limited support to the PCLU in respect of the TRC cases. And under questioning, my learned friend, Mr. Nell, you made reference to the Timel case, and that at the request of the PCLU, while you were on a trip to Cape Town, you interviewed a journalist by the name of Ivor Powell. And you mentioned that the information you were trying to get from Mr. Powell, he didn't have that information. Would you regard the step of seeing Mr. Powell in Cape Town as a formal investigation, or was it simply just something you did on request from the PCLU?
I would say there's two parts to that. The one that I had no authority after, in 2000 and before 2003, it was part of our mandate. The Jeff Ledwaba letter that came in June or July ended that mandate, so anything after that would be ad hoc. But also in connection with Mr. Powell, Mr. Powell worked within my component. I was also the acting head of the Crime Information Collection Unit at head office. And Mr. Powell had worked for me. I knew him well, and he was busy with work in Cape Town, as I was with national projects, and it was an opportunity to meet with someone who not only would be a first approach, but a possible witness where we had confidence and an open relationship in terms of understanding each other. So I was confident that if he knew what it was alleged he knew in relation to the Ahmed Timol matter, he would have confirmed that a confession had been made to him, but he did not support that.
Right. But just to confirm, this was post the handover of the TRC cases to the PCLU on the instruction of Advocate Ledwaba?
No. I think the letter speaks for itself. It was while Advocate McAdam was the head. I was his deputy then, and he had, I saw a document that he had written to me saying that these were aspects of investigation that needed attention.
Okay, we will check on that because in Advocate McAdam's statement, which is before this commission, we'll let you have the record number, but I believe it's attached as FA5 to the Kalata affidavit. In that statement, the impression one gets from Advocate McAdam is that he simply asked you, because he was aware that you were heading to Cape Town, and because he didn't have investigators, he asked if you would speak to Mr. Powell in order to confirm that information.
That might very well be the position, but I cannot indicate whether that would be correct or incorrect. It might very well be.
Okay. So
but maybe, sorry, I've never seen the docket. If that, in a sense, would help, that I wasn't doing, I wasn't the investigating officer in that matter. If that would help clarify.
all right, we just see if we can find the yes, it's Commissioners, it's at page 276 of Bundle 1. That's the affidavit of Raymond Christopher McAdam. And at paragraph 44, and that's on paginated page 284. Perhaps I can just read an extract from paragraph 44 to you. Advocate McAdam says as follows. At the time of deposing to this affidavit, I was not in possession of Annex RCM1. At this stage, when I now had sight of both this document and RCM9, I recall that RCM9 was written after both the DSO and SAPS had refused to investigate TRC cases. If memory serves me correct, Leask had informed me that as a result of the decision taken by Ledwaba that the DSO would not investigate TRC cases, he was unable to comply with my original request for investigations. Since he was, however, travelling to Cape Town on other investigations, he contacted Ivor Powell and questioned him regarding the confession apparently made by the applicant in this matter, the applicant being Rodriguez. The allegation was, however, denied by Powell, and Mr. Kaji was informed accordingly. Now that I've read that extract from Advocate McAdam, does that jog your memory?
Yes, it would then have been an opportunity to, as we've said, to ad hoc where we could assist, to assist, and a reading of that would indicate that I did it as not as part of my function, but to assist them.
Yes, so it wasn't a formal investigation, but you were being helpful.
Yes.
All right. And if we can turn to paragraph 11 of your statement. And at paragraph 11 and also in your evidence in chief, you gave evidence on the fact that several of your investigations were removed on the grounds that they were to be escalated with a focus on the involvement of General Krappies Engelbrecht, and that these cases, including that of Nokuthula Similani and Adriana Bamba Strongman. And you've also mentioned that Captain Holmes advised you that it was Advocate Turi Pretorius who issued that directive. What was the position of Advocate Turi Pretorius at that time?
I recall he was the deputy head in the De Oliveira unit. He held a senior position, and I recall, I think he was the deputy.
So he would have had authority to issue that command?
Well, I can say there would be we were working on many cases, and if any of those cases were met with positive links, and as I've testified before, that you need to move on from the foot soldiers, so to speak. So if any of those instructions made sense that you were moving up, then at that stage I had no information in my investigations that would indicate that General Krappies Engelbrecht was involved. But I was not in a position to say that if someone said that those matters now form part of that, I at that stage thought there would be movement. We would see not the colonels and the foot soldiers, so to speak, brought before court, but that we would move up to the generals. And that was my understanding. So I did not see it as a negative at that stage. But in hindsight, where we are now, I've seen no movement.
Now, just turning to the Bamba matter, or sometimes referred to as Strongman, in your evidence you said, and I quote, I think the words you used were that there was a direct connection between the Strongman matter and the Nokuthula Similani case. Can you elaborate what the direct connection was?
I refer once again to the discussions that I had with Willifont as one of the persons, and in general the witnesses that I was interviewing and taking statements of in the Nokuthula investigation, where they all raised no one could give me evidence as such, but said that Strongman was a risk to the activities of the security police, and they could not afford that if his continued involvement in the robberies led to his rearrest, that he might tell murder and robbery detectives he might disclose what they said would be a risk to the activities of the security police, going back with his employment as an askari with the security police.
Now, in one of the affidavits of Minister Tembi Similani, and we'll get the reference to the commission, she alleged that Adriana Bamba Strongman was in fact one of the guards guarding Nokuthula Similani at the Northam farm.
Where are you looking at the ref?
Commissioner, we're going to get that reference for you shortly.
Oh, you're just talking generally, okay.
Yes, just to save time, but we will find it. Perhaps we can just find it quickly here.
Yes, let me not derail you.
All right, my team will find that reference. It's either it is somewhere in Bundle 4, dealing with the Timbi Similani papers and the affidavits she made out there. So, from Minister Similani's perspective, the connection, at least to her sister's case, is that Bamba was allegedly one of the guards guarding Nokatula at the Northern Farm, where it's alleged that she was tortured before being disappeared. And that's the evidence you could potentially have given in the Nokatula case. Is that your recollection?
I would say yes. I would be more helpful if I had my case docket. But I do recall that, and why I'm saying I'm not sure what Strongman's role was, whether he was just, he was a guard at a stage because they were relieving each other. She was detained there, if I remember correctly, it was more than 2 months that she was kept at this family member's farm in an outbuilding. And so I'm not sure, and I cannot remember offhand whether he was involved in the transport, the guarding, or whether it was at the end part when she was taken once again to where the last time that she was seen. And that's in Western area, which is probably over 100 kilometers from where she was detained on the farm to where she was last seen in the boot of the vehicle. It was disclosed that, and it was something that came to mind with me, having grown up in the West Rand, is that the place where the vehicle was last seen with Nokatula in the boot of the car was close to between the gold mines on the Johannesburg Potchefstroom Road, close to Fochville side, and I had received information that it was alleged that she was going to be taken to, and once again I apologize, I cannot assist other than to say it was either Kutsia or Pretorius who had a family member, a brother or brother-in-law, who worked on the mine. At that stage I had no clue where, but I later heard that it was at Hillshaven, and Hillshaven's proximity to where she was last seen was coincidentally close, having considered that she'd been moved it's over 100 kilometers from Northam to Western area.
Commissioners, we have found one of the references, and that is in Bundle 4 at page 555. And that is an annex to one of Tembi Similani's affidavits. Then she was Tembi Kadameng. It's a letter from Advocate McAdam at the PCLU to Colonel Qaba, that's ex-ABA, of the Priority Crimes Litigation Unit, dated 13 February 2013. And in paragraph 3 of that letter, one of the witnesses, Norman Mkonza, testified at the Amnesty Committee that there was a safe house in Klipstraight West, which was used by Strongman Bambo. Evidence was led at the amnesty hearing that Mr. Bambo was also present on the farm, that being Northam Farm. He must be requested to point this house out, and again the missing persons task team must be requested to conduct an assessment. So there's also evidence of this in the amnesty proceedings, and in due course we'll point out exactly where that is.
Yes, thank you.
Now, Mr. Least, if I remember correctly, in your evidence you said that the docket in relation to the Strongman murder, and you've given a detailed account of what you know about that murder, that was completed. So once the dockets were then handed over to Captain Holmes, did you then expect that matter to be taken forward?
Absolutely. In fact, I thought that the Bambo matter was at an even more advanced stage than the Nokatula matter. Obviously, the difficulties of at the time in the 90s was was it a missing person or a murder? But the Bambo matter was, in my view, it was clear cut. We had witnesses, we knew what happened. There was just a version of the main perpetrator indicating that he'd acted in self-defense, whilst we had witnesses that said it was nothing else but a setup to assassinate the man.
And then subsequent to that, Mr. Nell referred you to the amnesty decision in that matter in respect of Eugene de Kock, David Britt, and Lionel Snyman. And just for the record, Commissioners, that amnesty decision is AC 2001 of 252. Commissioners, we're grateful for Mr. Nell referring us to this amnesty decision, and we believe that it should be placed before the Commission. It's not currently before the Commission, and we will take steps to put it up in due course. So further evidence then emerged in the amnesty process, and yet as we speak to you today, we're not aware of any arrests or any movement in that matter. What do you make of that?
I'm sorry, is that in the Nokatula matter or the Bambo?
No, I'm still with the Bambo matter.
No. My understanding is that at a stage there was and that I recently heard, I can't confirm it, but that there's an indication that the DPP in Pretoria had declined to prosecute.
Because in that amnesty decision, AC 2001 of 252, dealing with this incident, other suspects emerged, some of whom you have referred to, including Mr. Kukamur, and others behind the scenes, such as Krappies Engelbrecht, who was in the security branch, and Ave Human, who was with East Front murder and robbery.
Yes.
And our information is that all three of them are still alive today.
I understand so as well. I think that the witness Brits has passed on. But not.
Yes, I think you're correct on that. I want to refer you to an extract that you made in your evidence in chief, and I'm hoping that I'm paraphrasing you correctly. And it's also dealing with the Bamba matter and the developments leading up to the setting up of this dead letter box that you referred to. And do correct me if I'm wrong, but my notes says the following: members of Vlakplaas consulted a colleague of Mike Holmes, one Lieutenant Kokomoor, at murder and robbery to go and set up the dead letter box.
The day before the incident?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, is this the same Mike Holmes who took over the Bamba and Nokatula Similani cases?
It's the same person. I just want to indicate my understanding was that Mike Holmes was not there to take over the cases as the investigating officer, but he was just in the office, the nodal point, if I can indicate it as such. And I do know that Mike Holmes, who I knew very well, had become, in fact, he became terminally ill. And Mike is no longer with us. I cannot recall that he was actively involved in any investigations to his full capacity, if I could say that. He got ill and be off for long stretches of time and come back. So with regards to him doing those investigations, that was not, I might be wrong, because I never dealt with any of those issues going forward, but it was not my understanding that he was the investigating officer.
Yes, I think it's something that this commission will have to look into, because the allegation from Minister Tembi Similani, which has been put before this commission, and perhaps her information is wrong, we'll have to double check, but that once the dockets were removed from you and then handed over to Mike Holmes, apparently for the purpose of this greater investigation, that's when the investigations effectively died.
Even now, if I look back, it's disappointing.
And we're concerned that there might be a link or some kind of question mark over Mike Holmes, given that, according to you in your evidence in chief, members of Vlakplaas consulted a colleague of Mike Holmes, a certain Lieutenant Kokomoor, at East Rand murder and robbery.
Maybe I could just clarify that.
Please do.
When I said a colleague of Mike Holmes, Kokomoor worked in the very murder and robbery unit, the East Rand murder and robbery, where Mike Holmes worked. I can indicate that when the and I'm speaking from my knowledge of how the murder and robbery units worked. What stood out is that it was just it's a no-no that detectives would come to a police station and involve themselves in a matter where you were the investigator. Come and question them or that kind. It shouldn't happen. And there were instances where you would have the intelligence arms or the security, you'd find out that they'd gone and interviewed your suspects that were in detention before appearing in court. But what stood out for me on the Bamba matter is that my understanding was that they feared Mike Holmes was involved. He was a senior captain in the murder and robbery watch, and was closely involved in the matters that was bringing Strongman to book. So he was arrested. He escaped. I don't know how that happened, whether he was assisted or what led to that. And that was the time when they said, get a message to him. He must stop involving him, because if murder and robbery gets involved in these armed robbery matters and he's arrested, he's a potential risk. Now, what stood out is that he then gets rearrested. My understanding, he gets rearrested not on the old cases. He involved himself in a new matter, got arrested, and was in detention. What happens is that the Kukumur instructs a warrant officer, I might be wrong, but a junior member of the unit, telling him that he must go and book out the man because he's got information that he's involved in the movement of arms smuggling and stuff like that. And they go and take him out without the knowledge of the investigators at the same unit who were working on that. Kukumur is a senior member at the murder and robbery, and opens an inquiry. And it's just coincidental. It happens on the spur of the moment. We have the witnesses who say, and once again, I might be out with a day or two, but my recollection is on the Sunday, they go and do the preparation work for the DLB, so that there is an arms cache, there's a reason to go out and that. So the whole reason for that inquiry was established on the Sunday, and the Monday, the man gets booked out, taken away, and the detectives, including Mike Holmes, because he discussed it with me at a stage and said, I knew nothing about this. The next thing is, we heard that the man was taken out and he died. He was killed. And he was killed in an attack on Kukumur, who was doing the pointings out on this arms cache armament deposit that had been made the previous day by themselves.
Thanks for that clarification.
And my memory is faint now. I've been out of circulation for a long time. Isn't it they sign out if they take someone? What is that book called? The register?
Yes, Commissioner Gomer, so the person would be detained and entered into the cell register. I think it's the SAP 14. Your property would be collected and put in the SAP 22, and the occurrence book register would, and I think that's what Commissioner is referring to,
Yeah,
is that the occurrence book register would then keep details of all the occurrences that happen. So the prisoners get booked out, and if you book the prisoner out, if you booked him out, it would be you book him out to court or for further investigation, and you had to return him. So that is the way in which that's managed.
Yeah, the voorvallenboek, ne?
Voorvallenboek, that is, yes, Commissioner.
Okay.
Just to bring to the Commissioner's attention that the Bamba matter is referred to in the Kalata affidavit in Bundle 1. It's at page 159 from paragraph 414.3 onwards. And then Mr. Kalata points out that the DPCI and the NPA, the DPCI being the Directorate of Priority Crimes Investigation with SAPS, refused to cooperate with the representatives of the Nokuthula Similani family because they didn't possess a power of attorney from Bambo's family. Minister Similani attempted to liaise with the police and NPA because of the alleged connection between the two cases, namely that Bambo had been a guard of Nokuthula when she was at the Northam farm. Before I move on, Commissioner Cornwall, you had asked the witness, where is Mr. Oliphant? My attorneys advised me, and incidentally, the attorneys are also representing Minister Similani in respect to the Bambo matter. Their information is that he is still alive, and he was last known to have a contract with SAPS in 2024.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned in your statement at paragraph 13, as well as in your evidence in chief, that there was no consultation that was conducted with you or your team after the handover of the cases from your unit to the PCLU. Is it customary or perhaps good practice for new investigation teams to consult with the original investigators?
In my experience, I have no hesitation in saying that it's where you start. You start with the family. In any cold case, you start with the family. They remember things because it's more subjective for them. Mothers and fathers and sisters and daughters remember things that, and I say it with respect, we were dealing in my lifetime with hundreds of cases where you go through a case clinically, professionally, and deal with them. Families remember so much about what happened at the time, so you start with the family. And if you have someone that's worked on a matter and it's progressed, it's difficult for me to understand how you would do any meaningful investigation if you don't understand the environment, the motive that was established. Is there a motive? Because not everything is captured in the case docket. It's just the way it works. And I worked with policemen that were smokers who wrote everything that happened in their day at work on the back of the cigarette box and kept those cigarette boxes as notes. So if you read the docket, I'm using this as an example, I apologize, but it brings across the point that people sit with stuff that might be so essential that's not captured in the case docket, and just to take the case docket and go through it and think that you're making any progress is a tick box exercise. And I don't think that's what I mean. I would have expected that what I'm testifying about today would have been so meaningful for anybody who had to deal with that matter with the intention of establishing not only what was known, but whether there's other things that had come to the fore. Time passes on. People hear things that they didn't know about 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years ago. So That's what I'm saying. This never happened. It's my view. There was never any engagement with me that I would say was intended to bring the matter forward, and that appears to be the case.
And would I be right in saying that your name would have been all over the original docket, at least in the early years of its investigation?
Absolutely. This document that we referred to, this is an internal document. It's available. It should be in the case docket. It in fact sets out a lot of information just by itself. But this document might not have been in the case docket, but when you go through it, you remember, if you follow the admin process, you can get that document. It would help, because also, as I sit here today, I'm testifying with different hats on. As a detective with no issue with TRC matters that I was dealing with an investigation. The Attorney General at the time said to me, "This is on the front page, deal with it." So I was doing an investigation, and all of that kind of stuff would not necessarily be in the Nokutula matter, but it could have been something that was filed in the Bambu matter, or some of the other matters. There were other matters that also had come to the fore in relation to substations that had been blown up in the same circle as the Nokutula the person's involvement, the suspect's involvement. And those, I know that those dockets don't exist. We couldn't find them. I reconstructed them by going, at that time, Eskom had a effective security division, and we recovered their files. Where they are, I have no idea.
Commissioner, I'm just seeing whether there's anything further. Yes, in your evidence in chief, when Mr. Nell asked you whether there had been any further consultations, and you replied no, except there was, you mentioned a captain in the SAPS who approached you in relation to obtaining the recording you had done when you were investigating the attempt to tamper with the criminal investigation by two of the suspects. Do you recall the name of that SAPS captain?
I would probably do what people do with my surname. It's Lees and Leeks. I remember, or if I remember correctly, it was something with an M, Mangela, or something in that.
Yes, I think it was a Captain Machetla.
That could be correct.
I beg your pardon. I got the name wrong as well. Captain Masagela. Is it Masegla? I believe is the correct spelling. Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. And also one small correction. You were referred to a statement in Bundle 1 dealing with a certain witness by the name of Lengeni. And you had pointed out to the Commission that once you had heard, or once Lengeni had indicated to you that it was either Coetzee or Pretorius who said there was no proof of a body, that you realized you were dealing with a murder case. And the Commission was referred to Bundle 1 at page 497. In fact, Commissioner, Bundle 4, page 497. And there is correspondence there from Officers Toms and Mr. Leask providing a report of that. So we're just indicating that it's Bundle 4, not Bundle 1. And the reference to the warning statement, Commissioners, that's also a part of the Commission's record. That's also Bundle 4, page 255. And there Mr. Leask took a warning statement from Willem Helm, Johannes Coetzee. It's dated 6 July 1998. In respect of the murder of Nokuthula Similani. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vani. Ms. Moroka?
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Tsahai? Oh, you are with Ms. Moroka? Yes. Sorry about that, Ms. Tsahai. I'm doing it for the second time. My apologies, Ms. Moroka.
I think you do want to promote her, which is a good indication that she can be on her own. Thank you.
Mr. Siminya?
Any further questions would be done by Ms. Seme, if you so direct, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Seme?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Lisk, in your statement at paragraph 17 of your statement, you say that there was a clear delineation between investigations dealing with the erstwhile security forces and those dealing with MK and the ANC or other liberation groupings, and that you haven't been involved in any TRC investigation against individuals in MK or ANC for crimes for which amnesty was not granted. Do you recall perhaps an investigation linked to Commissioner van der Merwe and the ANC leadership and former President Thabo Mbeki?
Yes, I do.
Can you elaborate more on your interactions?
My reference to the delineation is with reference to the third force under Dr. Yando Oliveira, and then the other team that was established at the Church Square under Advocate Paul Fick. That grouping was completely separate. I had no involvement at all. But what did happen with the SNPU at the DSO, all those matters were brought together. They'd been transferred from each one of those components, if I remember, and I have no knowledge of that, but I understand that it was brought to the human rights establishment, and then from there it was documented at the NPA, and then obviously it was then together. And in relation to that, what I recall is I was requested to meet with General van der Merwe. I did at his home. The purpose was that there had been some arrangement or discussions, or I was not privy to any of that, but that there was information that would be made available that would, my understanding, add to investigations related to all or within that ambit of the TRC matters. However, I received nothing. If I recall, I reported back by indicating that the General had indicated that what he had that was available, or what they wanted to volunteer, was in the possession of his legal team, and that would be the way forward. So I passed the message on. Again, it played no part in any further investigative role that I had with that.
It hasn't been placed on the record.
Can you move forward, please? Thank you.
Sure. It hasn't been placed on the record, but perhaps Mr. Kriel can assist by jolting your memory. There is a statement that you made in respect of this. Maybe if you can put it into the record.
But please, the commissioners, may I just deal with this at this stage?
Yes.
I want to deal with this, and I've got two other questions, not questions, corrections or issues that I want to deal with. That's only two questions. But may I first deal with this? I was handed this affidavit just now. May I hand it over to Mr. Leesk, and then I'll ask the questions from that. Mr. Leesk, just take a minute or two and just read through that quickly. Commissioners,
I've done.
I'm referring to a statement made by Mr. Leesk. Statement was made on the 9th of March 2004 and at 2 o'clock. And you indicate in this affidavit, Mr. Leesk, that you consulted with the ex-police commissioner Johan van der Merwe on which date?
My affidavit indicates it was the 9th of March 2004.
Mr. Leesk, just read out the purpose of the meeting that is contained in your affidavit.
The purpose of this meeting was to offer him an opportunity to make available any information or evidence that could assist in establishing a case for possible criminal charges against the leadership of the ANC.
I think it would just be correct if you read the next two paragraphs. It's a very short affidavit, and then that was the purpose, and you said the General then answered or stated.
The General has clearly stated that he has conducted an investigation and has obtained documents and statements implicating members of the ANC with regard to the so-called TRC cases. Further, that these documents have been handed to the attorney Wagner, who is still in possession thereof.
And then you end off the statement by saying,
General van der Merwe has undertaken to confirm this in a sworn statement which he will prepare himself.
have you had any further dealings about this matter with General van der Merwe?
No,
Have you received anything from General van der Merwe?
absolutely
Have
nothing.
you had any contact with Mr. Wagner about this issue at all?
Not at all.
with leave of the Commission, I've got two issues that I would like to deal with.
Can't it wait for you when you have an opportunity to ask further questions after clarificatory questions?
Yeah,
have
no,
been
indeed.
put forward?
I thought that's the time now.
Yes.
I'm wrong.
Ms. Seme?
Was one of your instructions from Macadam to obtain a docket in relation to former President Thabo Mbeki from Van der Merwe?
No, well, let me say this. The name of the President Thabo Mbeki was never mentioned to me.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Nel?
Just two issues. Mr. Leask, in the document we referred to the reports by you and Director Toms, it's, I was correct, it's bundle 4, page 494. You have it with you?
Yes.
There's written, somebody wrote on the document at the top.
Yes, that's my handwriting.
It's your handwriting. What did you write there?
The CAS number, which is the record of the registering of a criminal complaint.
And the CAS number was?
1469. It's John Foster Square. CAS 1469 of 296.
Yeah, the only reason I mention it is that you could recognize your own handwriting on the document.
Yes.
Then a last issue. Captain Mike Holmes, he was the investigator in a very prominent case.
Yes.
He was the investigating officer in which matter?
In the murder of Crisani.
And he investigated that matter.
He did.
And that murder happened, I don't want to give evidence, but I think it's common knowledge, in 1993.
Yes, I recall.
And he was part of the investigation team going forward.
Well, I understood he led the investigation.
Thank
he was
you.
the main investigator.
I've nothing
Thank
further.
you.
Those were the two issues.
Mr. Nel, shall we assign exhibit numbers to the documents that we have been handed up? Starting with the transcript with regard to Misuka. Shall we give an exhibit number to that one?
Madam Chair, the document I handed up was just to make it easier. It is in the record. It's a record
Yes.
of the proceedings.
Yes, it will also make it easier for us when we are preparing our report to have
Indeed.
regard to documents that were handed up during the witness's testimony.
May I then request to mark then the Suka document ALA, so it's Andrew Leask, exhibit number A.
Yes,
May I then ask that we, as far as the other documents that we handed up, that's part of the record, but that we also mark those, Commissioner, that the internal memorandum dated 5 May 2003 that we referred to, but I'd never handed it up. The only other document I handed up, and I'm now interrupting myself, the only other document I handed up was the evidence of
Ms.
Minister
Similani.
Similani.
Yes,
May I request that we mark that ALB?
yes,
And then the last document we handed up, that's not handed up, but I think it should form part of the record, is the affidavit of Mr. Leask, statement of Mr. Leask, that was done on the 9th of March 2004. May I request, and I hand it up now, that this be marked as ALC.
thank you.
Thank you. May I ask permission just to, I'll make sure that the evidence leaders have that
We do have it.
as a good list.
Then we have the Amnesty Committee decision that was also handed up. will that be AL4?
ALD.
ALD. ALD. Thank you.
As a commission pleases. That concludes the evidence of Mr. Lisk.
Thank you. Mr. Lisk?
Chairperson, with the leave of the Commission, we have one question for Mr. Lisk arising out of the...
Just give me a second, Mr. Van.
I just wanted to address the question of because that statement because it leads.
Yeah, raise it. Raise it.
Yes.
Miss Seme. Miss Seme.
Yes. Miss Seme, or maybe should I address Mr. Siminya? We think it's important, if you have not already done so, we may not know, to obtain a statement from Mr. Willifant.
We will, now that we know that he's alive, we will, Chair.
Yes, yes. And I may have missed something, remind me, the docket that Mr. Lisk has been talking about, is that docket available or a reconstructed docket available?
We'll inquire about that as well,
Yes,
Commissioner.
thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Vani?
Chairperson, with the leave of the Commission, may we put one question to Mr. Lisk arising from the letter that the evidence leaders circulated in relation to the compilation of dockets against the leadership of the ANC?
You mean an affidavit?
Yes, sorry, the affidavit, 9th of March 2004.
Yes.
My apologies. As the Commission pleases. Mr. Lisk, as far as you are aware, you indicate in that affidavit that these dockets were in possession of the attorney Wagner. Are you aware whether the dockets were ever handed over to the police or the National Prosecuting Authority?
No, I have no knowledge. My role ended after this, and as you can see, in 2004, it was, I was assisting.
Because Mr. Kalata, in his affidavit in Bundle 1, Commissioners, that's page 154 of Bundle 1, he does make reference to these dockets, also in the possession of Mr. Wagner. But as far as Mr. Kalata is aware, and I believe relying on the evidence of either probably Advocate McAdam or Advocate Ackerman, and we are busy trying to find the reference, a request was made for those dockets, but they were never handed over.
I've never seen such a docket.
No further question.
Thank you, Mr. Vani. Mr. Lisk, we thank you for having made yourself available to come before this commission to give evidence. We appreciate it. You are excused now as a witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, can we be excused? I don't think we have any further witnesses for the day. We intend leading 2 more witnesses tomorrow, but they're not available today, but they will be available tomorrow, and we will do both witnesses tomorrow. If the Commission will excuse us, we could perhaps follow the budget speech this afternoon.
The Commission's work is more important than the budget speech.
I agree.
For now.
Mr. Siminya?
That, Chairperson, would be the business of the day.
Yes. These proceedings are adjourned until tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
That's good.